Hello, welcome to Unboxed God, where we detox from religion and discover the God who refuses to fit inside the boxes we were given. I'm Tolu Sarah Johnson, and here we explore who God really is beyond fear, beyond formulas, and beyond everything we were taught to perform. If you're hungry for a real relationship with Him, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. So, this is going to be our third parable in the theme of managing, and it's going to be the 51st parable in the all of the 54 parables we are going to cover. So this is the parable of the unjust steward. Yes, money reveals allegiance. This is what this parable is about. This is the turning point of the theme. Up until now, Jesus has been warning us with firelight and shadow. Yes, rich man and Lazarus exposed external neglect. The suffering you leave at your gate. The suffering you walk past. We look at the rich folk. He exposes your internal illusion. The barn you build to feel safe. The world you're building for yourself. It's all about me, 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 me. Now Jesus moves from exposing what went wrong to exposing what is truly ruling you. Yes. Because this parable doesn't ask, are you generous? It asks something sharper. When pressure comes, what kingdom do you instinctively protect? What do you spend your money on? How do you use the resources that's been made available for you? This is what this parable is all about. But before we delve deeper into this parable, let's read the Bible passage for this parable, which is Luke 16, 1-13. Jesus told the disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, how much do you owe my master? 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, and how much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Wow. There's so much to discover in that parable. Yes. Because you might be thinking, why does this come next? And why it eats so hard? This is where the theme becomes uncomfortably honest. We have to be honest with ourselves, because Jesus admits something we all know but rarely confess. You will use resources strategically. Everyone does. But the question is not if you will be strategic. The question is, for which kingdom will you use it for? This is not a parable praising dishonesty. It is a parable exposing intentionality. Yes, it says, even the children of this world know how to move money with purpose. Why are the children of light so passive with eternity? What do you use with the resources that you have been given? You can be strategic about it, but where does it go? Let's look at the story. The steward is accused of wasting his master's resources. He is told, your job is over. Prepare your account. And suddenly he wakes up, not morally, not spiritually, practically. He realizes, my current system is closing. A new one is about to begin. So he asks himself the question every human eventually faces. What do I do when my covering disappears? Who will hold me when my position is gone? Where will I belong when my title dies? And he moves quickly to secure his future. He calls the debtors in. He reduces what they owe. He builds relational capital using financial leverage. And shockingly, the master commends him. Not for injustice, but for shrewdness. For acting like tomorrow is real. Jesus is not saying copy is dishonesty. Jesus is saying copy is awareness. Copy is urgency. Copy is intentionality. It's determination to move. Because he knows he can't dig. I'm too proud to beg. I'm about to fall. So what can I do? And what Jesus is saying here is very clear. The children of the world understand urgency better than the children of the light. They don't drift. They don't daydream. They don't mean well. They move. Yes, they move into action. So the master admires the steward's shrewdness, not his morality. Again, I'm repeating, his intentionality. Are you intentional about your life? The steward did not sit on a couch saying, I will change someday. He didn't write a vision board about becoming responsible. He didn't sing about surrender and remain unchanged. He acted because he believed his future was at stake. And Jesus turned that into a blade that cut straight through spiritual pretense. If people can be that strategic to secure a temporary future, why are my disciples so casual about an internal one? Why? That is the question I ask as well. How can you be in heaven and you don't care about your internal home? How? No intentionality. You just want to stay there. And it's so sad that it's the disciples that are so casual. The people of the world, they are more smarter. But the disciples, they can't be bothered. And these are the people that God, Jesus rely on to be their representation in this world. But they live with carelessness. They spend money anyhow. They prioritize the wrong things in their life. They focus on prosperity gospel and leave the main gospel. They leave it behind. They manage the resources that he has given to them carelessly. No kindness, no mercy, they're not visionary in any way. They just live carelessly on a day-by-day basis. Wow. Jesus, I love the way he communicates. This parable, sometimes they sting because they are trying to wake you up. Allow it to sting you. Allow it to wake you up to reality of what Jesus is saying here. Because imagine someone discover their bank account will be frozen in 24 hours. They don't sit calmly scrolling their phone saying, well, God knows. No, they make calls. They move funds. They settle debt. They secure shelter. They act like the deadline is real. And this is what the unjust stewards do. And Jesus looks at the church and says, in effect, the world treats money like a tool. Why do you treat it like a toy? The world plans for retirement with precision. Why do you plan for eternity with vagueness? And this is what the church is. You plan your eternity with vagueness. No intentionality. No planning. And Jesus keeps speaking in different parables to communicate his heart desires, his frustration about what the church has become. And you need to ask yourself, are you ready to participate in this kingdom? Or do you just want to be there and add no value to it? And then when the end comes, for the ones that are still living on earth, when you die, the reality is very shocking. Because now we just waste resources. I want you to think of this analogy, another analogy. A visible account and an invisible account. A visible account is your money, your time, your energy, your reputation, your opportunity. And a visible account is what those choices are depositing into you. Self or God. The more money you have, are you making a choice to lean towards the kingdom of God? Or are you leaning towards making yourself better? Most people live as if the visible account is the only one that exists. Yes, they budget for holiday, they insure their cars, they plan their retirement, but they have no plan for the soul. And this parable is Jesus saying you're already depositing daily. You just don't want to admit what account you are building. Yes. And are you going to start admitting what account you're building? Because your spending is not merely financial, it is theological. It reveals your real gospel. It reveals what you think salvation is for. It reveals what you believe is life. And that's what Jesus said. Your ways of life is revealing your choice. And Jesus gives the lesson. And it is impossible to ignore. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. It's not saying buy people. It's saying turn money into mercy. Turn resources into relationships. Turn temporary currency into internal consequences. Because money is one of the few tools on earth that can be converted into love that outlives you. Just like so many people have in the world, like Warren Buffett is one of them. Majority of his money is going into loving other people. And that will outlive him. Even when he goes home, he will still be remembered. But have you ever heard of any church doing that? No. And Jesus is blunt. Your possessions will be gone. Either you will leave them or they will leave you. So the question is not, will I lose them? The question is, did I use them while I had them? What are you doing? And another angle that this parable identifies is the idea that being good is the point, because you can be good and still be devoted to wrong master. You can be churchy and still be enslaved to mammon. And this is why Jesus ends with this line that seals the whole managing team. No one can serve two masters. Not no one should, but no one can. And you can be in heaven now. Your judgment is already decided. You know you're already in heaven. But are you still serving self? Is your God still self? Like Michael Jackson said it recently, their God is self. Because money is never neutral. Money becomes a mirror. It reveals what you love. It reveals what you fear. It reveals what you trust. It reveals what you serve. But for people in heaven, you don't have money, but you have everything made available for you. And the way you live your life now is a mirror of who you are. Yes. And you need to look at your life. How am I living it? Am I faithfully committing my time into others to build the kingdom of God? And Jesus tightens the net. He says, if you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful on large ones. If you're untrustworthy with worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches? And that's the most important thing. This is not a morality scoreboard. It is a trust issue. In the kingdom, money is not the treasure. It is the test. Yes. How you handle earthly resources shows whether you can be entrusted with spiritual authority, influence, responsibility, and heaven's true riches. Yes. How you use these resources will determine where you belong. Because a heart that cannot be trusted with a paycheck will not be trusted with power. Yes. A lot of people, you want to reach the position of power, but you are not a trusted heart. You've demonstrated you are not reliable. You are not responsible. There's so many things that God looks at in his kingdom. A heart that cannot be trusted with surplus will not be trusted with souls. A heart that cannot be trusted to be a friend to Papa, to be a friend to Jesus. How will you be trusted with souls? No, you can't. And that final blow, which Jesus said, which I mentioned earlier on, you cannot serve two masters, is still what is happening now. You either cling to your money, or you cling to your resources, or you cling to God. No one can serve two masters. Even in heaven, you cannot serve two masters. You can serve God, or you can serve your money. Because when you serve God, when you serve God, you cannot be a slave to money. But when you don't serve God, you are enslaved to money. When you serve your mammon, and notice what it says, enslaved, because mammon doesn't present itself as a demon. It presents itself as wisdom. Yes, all this plan is security. It presents itself as self-care, deserving, just in case. But if it owns your decision, it is not a tool in your hand. It is a master on your neck. And that's the turning point. Managing isn't about being good. It's about being claimed by God, or claimed by the system of self. Yes! Why have you been claimed by? Have you been claimed by God, or you're still being claimed by the system of self? Make the decision. I have chosen to be claimed by God. You make your choice. Because the world today, the church today, they are being claimed by self. That is why they cannot even give 10% of their money away. Because it's all about self. And they don't know that in these little things, God is testing them. And if they cannot be faithful with little things, why do you think God should give you a ministry? Why do you think God should entrust souls into your hands? Because a lot of people that got souls now, they're just mismanaging the resources that God has given them. And what this parable forces the reader to ask is not, am I dishonest like that steward? But am I intentional for the kingdom the way the world is intentional for itself? Do my choices prove I am serving God, or do they merely sound religious? What system am I actually investing in with my time, money, attention, appetite, resources? In my life, if my life were audited now by my receipt, who will my devotion be obvious? Or will it be a surprise? If your life were audited today by your receipt, will your devotion be obvious, or will it be a surprise? I know if my life was audited today, my devotion will be so obvious that I commit my life to Him, to Papa, to Jesus, to Holy Spirit. They own me. I don't own myself. They own my destiny. I don't own tomorrow. Tomorrow might be a day of reckoning. Tolu, it's time to come back home. But I live ready. And that is what this parable is all about. How do you live your life? How do you manage your life, the resources? Because the truth is, you will be strategic. The only question is for which kingdom? Yes, you will be strategic. But what kingdom are you being strategic for? Be true to yourself. Be sincere to yourself. It's not about going to church. It's not about reading the Bible. It's not about doing all of these activities. It's about what your life is being lived for. What do you prioritize? And this parable should be asking you, who am I really serving? What systems am I actually investing in? What future am I preparing for? If my master asks for an account today, what will my spending prove? Because this is the turning point. Lazarus showed us what you ignore. The rich fool shows you what you believe. The unjust steward shows you what you are actually loyal to. Yes. And it can be very painful. It can be really sad for the truth to be shown to you. Because Jesus is not asking for guilt, he's asking for clarity. Because you will be intentional with your resources. You have to be. The only question is whether your intentionality is aimed at art or is aimed at heaven. And for people in heaven, the question is your intentionality aimed at yourself or is it aimed at God? And managing in the end is not about being impressive. It is about being aligned. Are you aligned to everything that is happening in heaven now? Are you pulling your weight? Or are you being greedy? And after this parable, Jesus will not let you remain vague. We will still be going through the parable of the 10 minas, the talent, and the sheep and goat. Because one allegiance is exposed, the next parable, it intensifies the question. If you've ever been entrusted, what will you do with the assignment? That's what the 10 minas is about. If you've been gifted personally, what will your fear make you bury? That's the talent. And when the final audit comes, what will your stewardship have done to the vulnerable, the sheep and the goat? This is why the unjust steward sit right here like an hinge. Yes, it is. Lazarus shook your conscience. The rich fool shook your illusion. The unjust steward shakes your loyalty. Wow. That's deep. Your resources is not yours. It belongs to God. And I hope you are able to spend it wisely, like the master who will be proud of you. See you in the next parable. God bless.